Joe Biden is obviously well ahead in the polls, both nationally and in essentially every swing state, and even some states that aren't really supposed to be swing states. However, some of his supporters seem to be getting a little bit nervous about what could happen to his campaign if he were forced to emerge from the basement. So we're starting to hear, Rachel, from a number of Democratic strategists that he should maybe not do any debates whatsoever. So he hasn't been taking many questions from the press, and there's not going to be like conventions the way that there are in years past. And now we're hearing from a few that they don't even want him to do the debates. Here is Joe Lockhart, who's a CNN analyst. He's like a Clinton guy, a John Kerry kind of guy, making the case this weekend with Smerconish that Biden should skip the debates. Let's take a listen.
This is a president who, as I said in the article, is incapable of telling the truth. He spins these conspiracy theories out there. And up till now, most of those theories are broadcast by Fox News and, on his Twitter feed. And, most Americans don't see that. The debates are very different. This is the one thing, now that we're not really going to have conventions where the public will tune in, 50, 60 million people. And they will see all of this nonsense from him. He will take the truth and destroy it. And Biden will be in the position of correcting him over and over and over again. I don't think he should give him that platform.
Now, what I like about this is he frames it in terms of like Trump is so awful that he shouldn't give him the platform. But it's very clear the concern is, look, we're ahead in the polls. You got this thing in the bag. Don't give him a chance. Don't give Biden a chance to screw it up, right?
And I kind of get it, right? Like, Biden is surging in some of these states by doing nothing.
Yeah.
Right. So I get why campaigns, say don't mess with a good thing. And, to be fair, we've seen Joe Biden take questions and not be able to keep up. He seems tired. He seems distracted. But I reject this as a strategy because regardless of how you feel about Trump, he is still the president. And you still have to make the case for why you deserve that office and why you're a better choice.
Yeah.
And, the Joe Biden of old could handle Donald Trump up and down.
Yeah.
Right? He would have been a master at this craft. And so I think there's a lot of people that want to see, his campaign makes the case that he's still that guy. Well, show us.
Yeah. I actually went and covered that vice presidential debate against Paul Ryan. And Republicans had created this caricature of Joe Biden that he was like really stupid and he doesn't know anything. And they created their own also caricature of Paul Ryan that he was like the golden boy and he's so smart and he's the savior of the party, right? And so when the two actually met head to head, Biden handled him easily, was much more charming, was much more skilled in the craft. That guy was able to manage the stagecraft of the debate, no problem whatsoever. And he was good in the debates back in 2008 as well, even though his presidential campaign didn't take off. I kind of agree with you that, just from a pure political strategy, you can't really disagree with them. Biden basically won the Democratic primary by doing next to nothing.
Right.
He was relatively invisible. You had all those candidates. He's relatively invisible in the debates. Moderators handed him all kinds of softballs, allowed him to, wander on without really pressing him on his past votes, without pressing him on some of the bizarre things he was saying on the stage. And at the time, there was a real question about his schedule was so much lighter than everyone else. He was not out on the trail. He was not taking questions. He was not interacting. This was pre-COVID, right? He was not interacting with supporters and having campaign events the way that the other candidates were, even candidates like Bernie Sanders, who was older than him, right? But he ultimately didn't need to. It was the right strategy. And so I think they've been very smart in this portion of the campaign. There were people who came out. I think Axelrod wrote a piece that was like, Biden's got to get out there on the trail. And they're like, nope, we're good where we are. We're just going to hang back. It's been the correct political analysis. But in terms of doing a service for the American people and what you should expect of a candidate, I think that this would be an utter abdication. I mean, you're not taking questions. You can't do rallies. You can't really demonstrate your fitness to the American people in the traditional ways. This is one of the only, this way Joe Lockhart is right, this is one of the only chances that the American people will get to see you out there responding to difficult questions, having to think on your feet, all of those things, and take the measure of you. So to deny them even that opportunity, I think is ridiculous. And then to your point, there's also, and I hate this instinct on the side of resistance Democrats of, don't show Trump's press briefings and
don't legitimize
him. It's like,
yeah.
He is the president of the United States. And I don't like that as much as you don't like that. But that is the reality we have to acknowledge. And it fits in with this whole thing of they want to pretend like he just popped down of the ether, totally independent of what was going on in the country and the policies and the leaders that they voted for and were complicit in as well. And by just sort of erasing him and pushing him off the screen, they think they can deal with that. And it's just like you're living in a fantasy land.
Well, I mean, every election, you cannot win an election by proving a negative. And that's what it is that they're trying to do. They're trying to say, well, I'm not that guy. And that should be enough. Case closed, end of story. And I'm sorry, but that's just not the way Americans go to the polls and vote. Maybe some do, but the rest of America really wants you to make the case. They want to see if you're still the guy that you were 20, 30 years ago. Because to your point, if you've watched Joe Biden, and I have for years when I worked in the Senate, he is very good at this. Like, he is a very good politician. He resonates with people. He's enjoyable to watch in that regard. He really enjoys what he's doing. We would like to see if it's still that guy. And we'd like him to lay out what his agenda is. It can't simply be, well, I'm return to normalcy. Well, there is no normal.
Yeah.
Right? You know, we have a country that's falling apart in many ways. We have really big existential questions that we have to answer for not just kind of on a policy level, but who we're going to be as a country. Right? And that's effectively what our government decides. And so that's what our politicians do. That's what this race is about. You can't just do it from the basement saying, don't show that guy. That's my case.
Yeah, well, and I think we should take seriously the fact that these strategists are very nervous, right? They don't feel that this is in the bag. They feel that Biden could still basically screw it up for himself. And for good reason. I mean, just as a little trip down memory lane here, can recall some of his stellar debate performances from the Democratic primary. Let's take a listen to a little bit of that.
We bring social workers into homes of parents to help them deal with how to raise their children. It's not that they don't want to help. They don't know quite what to do. Play the radio. Make sure the television, make sure you have the record player on at night, the phone. Make sure the kids hear words. A kid coming from a very poor school, or a very poor background, will hear 4 million words fewer spoken by the time they get there.
So no one should be thinking that Joe Biden has this thing in the bag. I mean, they're right about that. And look, Trump has basically, it's pathetic that he is losing to Joe Biden based on a strategy of essentially doing nothing. It is absolutely pathetic. If he had had a decent response, that not even like world beating, like a Cuomo level, let me be authoritative and defer to the public health experts, let me give some money out and like keep people whole during this pandemic, he'd be beating this guy easily. It wouldn't even be close. We'd be headed to a landslide in another direction. So I think we should hear these Democratic strategists basically warning, like, Biden could still screw this thing up.
Well, I also think it's just like, this is the moment to kind of step up and clarify, to your point, but it's also really easy. Like, everybody's at home, right? Everyone will log into a Zoom or a WebEx or whatever. All you have to do is press a button and you have sort of a captive audience. Like, this is the time to make the distinctions, and it's very easy to do. Like, Cuomo did this, right? And everybody tuned in, and he's a national subject of national conversation because of that. And people know exactly where he is on a lot of issues. You know, Joe Biden every now and then will press play and we hold on for the ride. But I mean, but that's the extent that we've seen. And I don't think, for the sake of our self-government, that should be how a campaign is run for the president of the United States.
Not a lot to be inspired by on either side, let's be fair. Tomorrow on Rising, editor-in-chief of Gallup, Muhammad Yunus, is going to join us with the latest polling on school reopening. Also, great friends of the show, Ryan Grimm and Kyle Kulinski, are going to be here. Remember to hit that subscribe button so you don't miss a single one of our videos. Also, do not forget to like and share as well. We appreciate you all. Rachel will be back again tomorrow. Fabulous job today, Rachel.
Thank you.
Have a great day, everybody. We'll see you back here.